to the Goody Room, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and more. We know you want the goodies. Welcome into the Goody Room. I'm your host, Matt the Nachos. With me always is Frankie Rock. He's the Cedric Dickory to my Harry Potter. How we doing, Frank?
We're doing really good. You know, I'm happy to be back. It's been a minute. We've had a few delays, but here we are recording yet another episode.
Yeah, and just FYI, you know, I technically won the Goblet of Fire, so, you know.
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
For those of you that are on YouTube, have no idea what we're talking about. Frank's wearing a Hufflepuff shirt, you know, so I had to throw out a couple Harry Potter comments.
That's right. You know, when I was sorted on the website that we all went to, or most of us went to, or people that like Harry Potter, I was sorted into Hufflepuff, and everybody was like, "Do you?" I'll never forget. I was with a group of people, and everybody was like, "Do you want to try it again?" I was like, I said, "No, I'm good with Hufflepuff. I'm like the only Hufflepuff I know, and my wife got me this awesome T-shirt that I'm wearing." So. Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've actually, you know, my dad's really, I think, never even really watched the movies and like understands all of it, but he's been to Harry Potter World, and I said, "What house are you?" And he goes, he doesn't know what house is. And I said, "You know, Dad, I think you're a Hufflepuff."
Do you remember when my brother was dating that one girl? She was like a big Harry Potter fan, and we were giving him talking points, like, you know, Nick, you're going to want to figure out what house you're in. And he goes, "Why?" And I said, "She's going to ask."
It's going to come up. You know, for those of you listening, if you're wondering, I'm a Slytherin. I identify as a Slytherin.
That makes just complete sense. Like, no one's arguing that with you.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, I also took the test and it placed me there. So,
did anybody ask if you wanted to try again?
I was very happy with Slytherin, so I wasn't going to change it anyways.
I don't know if I really cared. I was just like, whatever. I'm at this school. We're good. So there's that. But we have way too much to talk about to be talking about Harry Potter houses.
Yeah, we really do. You know, we have a full episode again, guys. A lot has been seen, watched. Frank's been to the movie probably more than I can ever remember. He's been going to the movies.
I am shocked. Like, I am shocked how many times I've been at the movies. In fact, my local theater, which about a year ago I would have told you was taking a downhill turn, I've been to the movies so much that I was able to see the renovations as they were happening, and now it's awesome again. So that's how many times I've been to the movies this summer.
You funded it. You saved him.
Just doing my civic duty, okay? You know, I'm here for the movies. The movies are for everybody, and I just want to do my part, you know?
Yeah, doing your civic duty, like, you know, in Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's right.
How did I know that?
That's exactly what I was going for. The Force.
The Force. The Force with us. All right. Anyways, we got a full episode, like Frank said, Streamer Botch, and then we're going to give a retro recommendation, and we have way too many Streamer Botch episode items to actually even probably get through the entire episode. So we're going to go ahead and get it rolling. Streamer Botch, if you don't recall, guys, this is where we talk about things that we've seen recently, and we're going to tell you our thoughts on it, whether it's a stream or whether it's a botch. You know, stream meaning that, hey, go check it out. We think it's worth your time. Botch, maybe skip this one. First one up, we got Skywalkers, a love story. Not to be confused with Star Wars, all right? This is not about Luke Skywalker and Leia and Han and like the weird three-way kind of love triangle that he has with his sister and, you know, Han. So, Frank, take it away.
More on that type of relationship later with House of the Dragon. Anyway, Skywalker's a love story is a documentary on Netflix that, honestly, it plays very much so like a heist movie. It's about a true story, obviously, these two kids, and I mean kids. These people are like young. They're like 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. And what they like to do is they break into skyscrapers and they climb all the way up to the highest point, and they do like circus tricks up there, and this is their art form. This is their art. They tell you that so many times throughout the documentary. They're like, this is our art form. Both from Russia, both have family history in the circus. So they envision this as their way of continuing on their family's legacy on the world stage. And they talk about how they got into this and where they started and how they were like little buildings, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go with the medium buildings, and now they're breaking into one of the world's tallest buildings, and that's basically the central story, and how they are gonna get in, why they picked this certain night. It is incredible that all the thought that would go into this. But the most insane part of this is they show you footage of them actually climbing, and they have like these GoPros on their chest or their hat or wherever they put them. And there are many times where the camera peers down and you see just how high they are. And it's just like you're like, oh, you feel yourself tightening up a little bit. I was watching this on my big screen in my TV room. It got to be too much. I was like, all right, I got to see how this finishes, but I can't keep looking at these views of looking down. So I went to my bedroom, and I was, finished it on my iPad, and I kept going, oh my God. And my wife kept walking by and checking to see if I was okay. And I said, don't look at this, because she's afraid of heights. I said, you would absolutely hate what I'm watching. But the building that they climb, which is like the main building, we'll say, they want to go all the way up on the antenna. They were climbing an hour and a half just to get up there, up to the top. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that. And everything that happened before that, Matt, they basically were trapped up there because by the time they made it to the top, construction crews were coming to finish the building. And they didn't want to get caught by security, because if they were in I think they were in Thailand, which they didn't want to go to jail there, which I think that's completely understood. Well, don't go to jail anywhere, but Thailand, for sure not there. So they were up there for like an extra 48 hours hiding before they got another opportunity to, do the final climb. And they ran out of food and water. It's an incredible story. Like, I definitely would stream it. Netflix. Skywalkers, a love story, again, not to be confused with Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I would have a lot of anxiety watching this.
Oh, it was anxiety riddled. Like, I felt like I was sweating at one point. I was sitting on my couch.
Yeah, and I don't know if Thailand's a place. I mean, I've seen The Hangover too, right?
Right.
Bangkok has them. Like, I don't know if that's somewhere I want to go to jail.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. But I started following them on Instagram, and now they're like super famous because of this documentary. And like, they were complaining the one day, they were like, it's very difficult to break into buildings. People know who we are now. And it's like, well, yeah, you put your documentary on Netflix. Everybody has Netflix. We know who you are. Yeah.
Shocker.
Like, oh no, you set out and achieved what you set out to do. You're famous. Poor you.
Yeah. So what would you say? Stream, Botch?
I would say stream it. Just know, like, you're going to be seeing some sequences where they're like insanely high up, and you might think like, that's no big deal. I'm just watching it on my TV. Well, if you're like anybody in America or anybody around these days who have these 4K televisions, it's crystal clear, and boy, is it high. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's not even that. Like, it's for me, it's sitting there and like just imagining myself doing that.
Right.
In that situation and seeing how high up you are.
The girl is on the edge at one point doing like these circus cartwheels as he's like filming her.
Wow.
And there's a point where they break into a building, Matt, where it's unfinished and the crane is like going out over the city. And they're like, you know what would be really cool? Going out to the tip of the crane. And they take you out there, and it's like insane.
How about new?
Right? Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, it's an interesting watch. Frank says go stream it, so check it out. Anyways, moving on. We got The Boys, season 4. Are we sure it's season 4? Frank and I were having this debate. It's season 4, right?
I want to say it's season 4 because I remember seeing the articles that it's ending with season 5. So I think it's safe to say it's 4.
The force is aligning us on that one too. But
Right.
The Boys season 4. If you guys don't know, The Boys is an Amazon series. It's a comic book, kind of superheroes. But like, what would superheroes really be like if they were? Basically, it was like an industry, like a corporation was creating, superheroes. They had like a drug that could do so, and you kind of see a little bit dark side of what that reality of what it might look like if you had a bunch of people walking around with these powers, right? Frank, I don't know about you, but I'm glad it's ending with season 5. This probably should have been the last season.
To be honest, I think the shine has worn off, the shock value of it all. Like, not to say that it wasn't well done. It was fine. It wasn't great. It just wasn't as good as the last couple seasons or the first couple seasons. I got a little annoyed with the heavy-handedness with the creators' political agenda. It's like, come on, man, I'm just trying to watch a show. I'm not trying to be preached to. But not only just that, I didn't think the story was really there. I do think this probably could have been the last season. And honestly, there was a way in which I honestly thought it was going to be. I honestly thought that's where it was going. And now I just feel like the next season is going to be really drug out.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with it too, and how I feel. I mean, I still watch it, but like you
Well, at
said,
this point, I'm going to finish it. I will finish it, but I don't think I'll like it.
yeah, but like you said, like I think the newness and like what it was, it's kind of worn off by this point. We're like, okay, we get it, right? Let's wrap it up here, right?
Right.
So,
and I think too with the shock, because like this show, kind of like the Game of Thrones, was founded on like, we want to shock the audience. The way in which they're trying to shock you, there are a few scenes like the ice skating ring. I'll use that as an example. It's just like, it just becomes really gratuitous, and it's like, I know you're only doing this just to try to shock us, and it's just like, this is serving the story with nothing, because that whole sequence is not even brought up again, even immediately after it happens. They're like, okay, next crazy thing to shock the audience. So it's just like, okay, this is getting lazy,
yeah, like I wouldn't say it's a botch. I wouldn't say it's like a must stream either. I would say if you're a fan, you've been watching it, watch it, right? It's something that's available to you, especially if you have Amazon Prime. Still something to check out.
I would say if you're a completionist and you need to know what happens, by all means, watch it. But if you haven't started season 4 yet and you're like planning on watching it, this might be a good spot to jump off the train. And that way, just remember how it was.
Yep, because you don't need I'm gonna get hate for this. You don't need a Walking Dead situation where it just won't end.
Right. Oh my gosh. You and I are both on that camp, but I've been told throughout the years how wrong I am.
Yeah, I have been too. So, anyways, we'll end it like that. You watch it, you make your own opinion. Again, leave us a comment if you have an opinion about it at all.
Right.
No one said anything, so I guess you and I, they relate to what we say. So,
man, our audience must really think like we're on point, and for that we thank you.
thank you.
Wait, just funny thing. One of our listeners got back to me. They went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. They were not a fan, and I just thank you for listening, but you're wrong, Joseph.
Yeah, hey, that's just like your opinion, man.
That's like his opinion, man. You know, film is subjective, and he was just like, no, thank you.
Yeah, only the highest grossing rated R movie of all time. Yeah,
right. And one of the highest rated R movies of all time. But that's neither here nor there.
It's just a few facts.
Just some facts. Thank you for listening, Joe. We appreciate you.
Yeah, you're one of our only 5 fans, so thank you.
All right.
House of the Dragon season 2. Frank, I don't even know where to begin with this.
I'm going to start with this. House of the Dragon season 2 made the Bear season 3 look really, really good. Yep.
That's a hot take. That's a strong comment.
Coming up next on Frank Hawk's Hot Take.
You hold on, I gotta get the drop.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Hey, I was super psyched for this season. We all were. Season 1 was so good. Right? We were just ready to get back into Westeros, right? Ready to hear this story. And where they kind of were taking you and the characters they introduced and where the story was going, you were really getting excited for season 2.
Civil War was imminent.
Yeah, and I really expected there to be a whole lot of story for at least 8 or 9 episodes with an extended 10th episode that would finally be the payoff you were waiting for. Right.
Yeah.
And then what you would go from there is maybe the next season, if you were to do another season, which I don't think it needed that, right? I think that the story was good enough for maybe 2 seasons, right? And if you're 3, and if you're going to do 3 seasons, you need to have a really good game plan for season 3, and you need to at least give us a little bit more in season 2. But what this felt like, and Frank, I think you would agree with this, this was only 8 episodes long. And what that tells me is that you're stretching out this story on purpose to reach a season 3.
And not only that, so since the season 2 is concluded, HBO has announced they're going to make this into 4 seasons. Okay, fine. But this second season, I agree 100% with Matt. And I know this is going to shock our 5 audience members, but I've read the book. This particular story in the book is because it's a history of the Targaryens, and not just this set of Targaryens, all the Targaryens. It was only about 200 to 250 pages worth of material. So the fact that we're not even seeing this Civil War really play out, not just talking about like, well, we don't like that other side. Like actual things playing out, ramifications. I'm not looking for action. I'd love story, but the fact that they dragging this out is no good. And now we're gonna have 2 more seasons, which they'll be fine because there are some awesome events that are coming down the pipeline for sure. Like I was so pumped to see certain things happen. But they're going to be sprinkled between 2 seasons, and it's just going to feel really stretched, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I have no problem with story and context and character development, right? But I get really annoyed when you're purposely stretching out a show just to reach additional seasons. And where I could tell that, and Frank, we've talked about this even off the podcast, right? When we were going through it. And I've even seen this comment online, we don't need to see 4 episodes of Daemon Targaryen running around Harrenhal like he's like tripping on acid. Like we just
playing Scooby-Doo. Yeah. Like, and we were talking about this before we started recording. Like he's the highest paid actor on the show, probably the most well-known actor in the show, and you have him just like chilling at this castle, which it does happen in the book. I get that, but like, oh my gosh, like the last 4 episodes of this season could have been 1 episode, another one that I we didn't talk about this one yet, Matt, is the pirate, the guy with the white dreadlocks. He didn't leave that dock the entire season. He was on that dock in every freaking scene.
You did make that comment once. I laughed actually really hard at because I was like, he's right. He doesn't leave the dock.
On that dock the entire time.
But where like I've talked to a few people about this too, and there are people who really enjoy like the season. We got the one battle right, which was awesome.
That was very well done. Like, it looked better than most movies that are out. We shouldn't be able to say that, but here we are. Yeah.
And to me, like that, where I look for when a season ends is like I need kind of like a cliffhanger moment. I need something that's gonna, I need something that's gonna hold on. And like people are like, well, we got the Dragon Riders, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. Like you knew that was coming. Like right. That's obvious, right?
But speaking of those Dragon Riders, like props to my boy who was like chilling at the bar and just was like amounting to nothing, and he was one of the ones that the dragons picked.
But where I go with this too, and I tell people this, is like, well, but they're just telling us a story, character development, this and that. And I was like, okay, so let me play it to you this way. There are a lot of movie trilogies, right? What's the total runtime of those 3 movies put together?
Probably like 8 episodes.
Yeah, probably about 8 hours, right? Okay, so that's what this season was, and you got nowhere. I don't think anything's changed. It's you're in the same position as what it once was.
This is like kind of like a nitpick, but it honestly really kind of made me mad about this season versus season 1. Like, I have no notes on season 1 other than like you guys did great. But the reason I honestly believe this, the guy that was the showrunner of season 1, Matt, was the gentleman who had directed like pretty much a handful of the best episodes of Game of Thrones. There was some type of dispute when season 1 premiered. They fired him and they got someone new for season 2. And I think that had a lot to do with it. But also, do you remember when like the first couple episodes came out of season 1 and I said, nope, they're not going to pull me back in? You watched the first episode and you said, Frank, absolutely don't forget Game of Thrones, watch it. And I did. And we probably spent like a good 20 minutes talking about just like the cinematography and how the camera was placed and just how like outstanding it looked. There was just, I can't think of any of that in season 2 of like these I just felt like they were just on sets the entire time. I didn't feel immersed in the world, which is a shame because like Westeros is like a great setting to have it, show. You could even have it in some like village that's away from the action and it's still interesting. They just didn't take the time to really like scope it out like that, like they did season 1. And that was my probably second biggest letdown other than it's being stretched out.
Yeah, I read a few things too where like they even said like HBO was pushing them to like extend to multiple seasons and that they didn't have the budget either to really do the war episode like they wanted to or something like that.
That's insane to me that HBO doesn't have the budget for, Game of Thrones ended not great, but still was one of the most acclaimed shows on television, won however many Emmys, like truckloads of Emmys. And now you have a prequel series that the first season was it was probably even better. I'm going to go ahead and say it was better. And they're like getting like stingy on the budget. It just blows my mind. Like how many other everybody subscribes to HBO. Well, not everybody, but a good amount. Not Netflix amount, but like still strong enough where this is a show that whenever it comes back, people are resubscribing if they got off or they're pumped. And like the viewership's always like they're always like, we broke records last night with this episode. I just have a hard time believing that they're just like, why are you not funding this more?
Yeah, and it comes down to I think just how difficult it is to even create those dragon battles, right?
Sure.
Like I don't doubt the work that goes into creating that. Right?
I don't doubt it either, but I just feel like this is probably not your bread and butter, but like a heavy hitter for you. So you would think you would be dumping as much possible resources into it. And if the money is an issue, and I don't have any shows to really like use as a dead example, but like if there's a show that's not doing anything, like the viewership's down, the ratings aren't great, people aren't talking about it or watching it, I'm sorry, those shows need to go to fund like the shows that people are talking about. And that doesn't just mean HBO with Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. That's like any network. I feel like that should be your strategy. But this is why I'm not in television. They need to hire me for the movies.
And that's where I can really appreciate the way Netflix approaches like a lot of the shows that they have. Like they kind of know when to call it quits when something doesn't have.
Dude, they're merciless with canceling shows. Yeah. Like they don't give. They're like it's not working. Good day.
Well, and because they don't want to run into the same problem, right? It gets expensive to retain those actors and keep that story going, and they'd rather have 2 to 3 seasons of a really great show than 4 to 5 of a so-so show.
Right. House of Cards. But sorry, like I think that's where they learned that lesson, though. They're like, okay, we let this go on far too long. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Amazon kind of is starting to learn that lesson now, especially with their Rings of Power deal, which I don't know if you know this, Matt, but they paid X amount of money to, get the rights just for this small section of the Tolkien estate. But part of that deal is, though, whether the show is successful or not, they're signed contracts. They must produce X amount of seasons. So they're now stuck. And I really don't know too many people that are like, oh, Rings of Power is coming back. Yay. Maybe 1 or 2 people, fine. And if you like it, by all means, watch it. But it's, it's not something that Amazon should be putting that amount of money into. Let's just put it that way.
That's a topic for another day after I watch season 2 reluctantly, just because I am one of those people that needs to know what's going on. And I want to watch it for you, the people, so I can tell you 5 listeners how I think about it, even though no one cares.
You're going to hate watch it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm going to hate watch it. But yeah, House of the Dragon season 2, it's here's what I'm going to say about it. Wait till season 3 comes out and then binge watch them all.
Right, exactly. That way you're not like us we waited 2 years for this to come back. It was very lackluster. And now we're waiting, going to have to wait another 2 years. Oh, and before you start, people, fans, whoever, saying, well, there was a writer's strike last year. That's probably why the episodes weren't very good. No, they filmed outside of the country. The WGA had nothing to do with that, so they were free to film. So they had all their resources.
Yeah, and I think, last comment, that's the killer part, right? Is you have to wait such a long time for the next season, and it's like, you wait 8 episodes, there's no payoff, there's no cliffhangers, nothing to excite you in that waiting time, and it just kind of just kills your enthusiasm. So
Right.
Moving on here, we got Alien Romulus. Frank and I, we're going to do, I think, a future kind of topic about franchises that won't die. Alien is one of them.
Alien is one of these movies. And, guys, it's funny. I have seen the Alien movies. I've seen all of them in the prequels, and I also own them all. But it's odd. I will watch these movies, and then within the next day or so, I'm sitting there like, what was the plot of this movie other than the alien coming? And, I don't know them by like, this one's Aliens 1, 2, or 3. I know it by like what happens. Oh, this is the one where they're on the space station, or this is the one where they're trapped in the planet, or this is the one where they're in the prison, or that's how I know these movies. And every time I watch them, it's like watching it almost for the first time again because I've forgotten. But I also think that they're very entertaining. Well, like, I'm never mad that I have watched them. Even the bad ones that people are like, that's a bad one. I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, I've watched it. I thought it was entertaining. Excuse me. So when Alien Romulus was announced, and I felt bad because Matt announced this was coming out on on like our upcoming summer movie episodes. And I had said, no, I think that's a TV show. And you're like, no, I'm pretty sure it's a movie. Well, you were right, but I was also right because there is a TV show coming. So sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to step on you there. But when I found out that it was going to be a movie, I thought, oh, I'm going to avoid any trailer or anything. I just want to go in blind. That way, like the jump scares aren't spoiled for me. And I got to tell you, that was the approach, because I was completely surprised by this movie. I had no idea, other than, it's an alien movie. The alien's going to eat the humans. But I will say,
you don't say.
I don't say. No, I say. I will say this though. I wish I would have watched at least one of the trailers, because had I watched one trailer, I would have known that I should have saw this movie in IMAX. The opening scene, the opening shot, I just was like, oh man, I should have saw this on IMAX. And then for the next hour, I kept saying it because they kept doing these crazy good looking scenes. And
well, if I could just stop you right there, any space movie should probably be seen in IMAX.
Correct. Right? Correct. Yeah.
That out there as like a prerequisite, right? But and it was actually funny because I didn't go see this. I know you did, but I've watched the trailer. I've seen it multiple times because I've been to the movies a couple of times, actually more often than I usually go lately. And mainly because I saw Deadpool and Wolverine twice. So I saw this trailer twice. And dude, the cinematography, like the production, it looks like the budget was there. It didn't look like it was going to be good.
Listen, that was my favorite part of this movie, was the production. There were so many, like even towards the end of the movie, like the last couple scenes, I was still like, oh my God, that looks amazing. And here's how they did it. They had a lower budget. I think it was like 80 million. They obviously used CGI, but like they used it sparingly. It was all practical sets, practical effects. Like even the alien was animatronic, and it paid off. Like this movie, I'm not saying it's the best alien movie by any means, but it was probably, other than Deadpool and Wolverine, the most fun I had at a movie. Like it was a thrill ride. It starts off really slow, but even the slow stuff was like entertaining, because at least you had something pretty to look at the entire time. Like there's a scene where they're on this planet and they go up to a space station where most of the action takes place. When you get up into space from the planet and how they show the sun and the space station, it's amazing. Like I couldn't believe how good it looked. The characters are okay. They're your basic like characters in one of these movies. They basically exist to be picked off one by one by the alien, but the tension and the scary sequences, it was so thick you could cut it with a knife. It was really entertaining.
Well, like it's interesting to say that, because now I kind of want to watch this, even though I'm not a fan of these movies. I actually have seen just bits and pieces of the other ones, but to hear you say that too, like where my head goes is this is probably a movie that's also going to age well, because they do the more practical stuff, like old school is what I'll call it, right? It's not a CGI. You watch a lot of CGI, and those older movies, they look dated because it just evolves so much over the years.
So this movie, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but because there is a deep lore behind the alien movies. Like it is just dripping with like lore, and there are like alien fans out there that can tell you exactly what year the movie takes place, this and that. Yeah. This takes place between the first Alien movie and then the second Alien movie. And so Aliens, yes. Okay, I do know that one. Yes, it's the one James Cameron directed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I watched Alien Romulus, and I enjoyed it so much. I had no choice. I had to go watch Aliens. And Aliens, again, made in the 80s, practically, I don't think any CGI. Dude, Aliens looked like almost like it was made like they worked very well together. Like they look like they're part of the same series, and so that I have no doubt, Matt, I agree. This is going to age very well. This is absolutely a stream for me, and it's a few weeks after the fact that I saw this. I still remember this one very clearly, which for me, like I said at the beginning, I really have a tough time remembering which Alien movie is which. I'm always asking, wait, is that the one where this happens? No, that's the other one. Okay, well, which one? What's the big event in this one? This one I remember clear as day. And the more that I've thought about this movie, the more I honestly really liked it. It's not top movie of the year for me by any stretch, but it's certainly probably in the running for top 5. I really enjoyed this one, and I definitely will be putting it on the Movies Anywhere, Matt, for you to watch it. And I'm going to watch it. It was great. Like, I look forward to watching it again, not to experience like the set pieces, but just to see the scenery and things like it. It just was awesome.
I appreciate you being my champion.
I am your champion, Matt.
Next up, another movie Frank saw in theaters, Trap. I saw the trailer for this too, and it looked interesting. M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan, and if you're aware of
Ding Dong, as I call him,
M. Night Shyamalan, Ding Dong guy that did The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable Signs, and then just like a string of like very hit or miss movies.
Yeah.
Typically when I see M. Night Shyamalan's name pop up on the trailer, I'm just like, I'm out probably until like years later when it's on TV for free. But I will say the trailer had me hooked, and not hooked like, ooh, super excited about this movie. The way the premise of the movie is a dad takes his daughter to see like this musical artist who's essentially this movie's version of Taylor Swift. And it's revealed that the FBI set up this particular concert as a sting operation to catch a serial killer. And the main character, the dad, is the serial killer. So I was like, I'm not seeing this movie because I think it's going to be good. I am just curious to see how this guy is going to get out of there. And the premise had me intrigued, and there were a lot of leaps in logic. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was satisfied with the movie. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was bad. It was definitely middle of the road. But if you're like me and you watch the trailer, you're like, how's he going to get out of there? I think you'll be happy with it. So, but the one thing that I will say though, I was very impressed. M. Night Shyamalan has built a career in making twist endings and things like that.
Almost too many ridiculous twists, which is kind of where you alluded to, fans listening. Like, if you watch his other movies, like, it almost got too ridiculous and too kind of it was just like, really?
Yeah, it's too far fetched, right? Even for fiction, it's too far fetched. But this one, he did not go for a twist, Matt. No twist. A general reveal, but like going into it, like eventually you're gonna have to find out who tipped the FBI off, and once this character is introduced, you're like, it's just like them.
It's the Kevin Bacon, Axel F. Beverly Hills Cop bad guy. That's the guy.
Yeah, if you're curious to see how, and Josh Hartnett plays the dad. If you're curious to see how Josh Hartnett like eludes the FBI at a Taylor Swift concert, I definitely would check it out. I wouldn't pay for it, like wait for it to be on like Netflix or something. But it was, it was a good afternoon with my wife. We had a babysitter, and she likes thrillers. I thought it was a decent thriller, and not his best movie, but certainly not his worst. It's
great. Yeah, I definitely. I'll give it movies. M. Night Shyamalan. I'll give it at least one watch.
Oh yeah, he definitely knows what he's doing. He's talented, but I think he needs to be writing. I don't know if he's the one to be writing his own scripts anymore.
Yeah. Up next, we have, we'll bring it back to the kids. Despicable Me 4 also won Frank saw in theaters. Frank, you're just, like I said, you pay for those reservations, man.
I know, man. I know. And now I'm like thinking like I forgot that we were going to talk about Trap, and now just I forgot about Despicable Me 4, and I'm thinking like, oh, I didn't bring enough water down here for this episode. So I'll keep this one.
Yeah, give this a short little glimpse. What your thoughts were. I mean, most people by now, like, come on, guys, you've seen Despicable Me. You know what's what.
Guys, it's a Despicable Me movie, and it's the fourth one. Boom. There's your plot. But this one, honestly, my wife and I only went because my son, who is 3.5 years old, he discovered the Minions, and he thinks the Minions are great. And we thought, okay, this is a perfect time to test to see if he's ready to go to a movie. So we saw like 2 weeks after it came out, and we picked this one because my wife and I were both like, if we have to leave, we don't care.
Mhm.
But my son made it through. We got popcorn. We went all out for his first movie. He sat through the entire thing and just was blown away. And just to see him experience his first movie like that just was a joy for me. And to be there with him as it was happening, I thought the movie was fine. It had a few funny moments, but there's nothing new to discover. It's Gru, the Minions, and his kids. It's a Despicable Me movie, but if you have kids, my 3.5-year-old was able to sit through the whole thing. So boom, there it is.
Yeah, the way I'm approaching this one is I'm waiting for it to come on the streaming service that I already have, because that's what's going to happen. I mean, there's nothing new here, right, guys? Like, I'm a fan actually of the first one.
Love the first one. Love the first one.
That's the best one, right? Obviously, like, and so.
And like the Alien movies with the 2 and 3, I'm hard pressed to tell you which one is which or really what happened, other than like Gru and the Minions are in it,
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, I think that's that, and that's all we have to say about that.
That's right.
To quote Forrest Gump. All right, retro counsel coming up here. So this is where Frank and I give a retro recommendation. It's not just new stuff for us. We like to watch old stuff. There's movies that Frank and I, grew up watching. Our dads even introduced us to that. From time to time we'll find on a streaming service and we'll rewatch it. And that's how we've been kind of approaching these. It's just a fun time. And one that's one of my favorites when I was a kid is Weird Science. And this popped up on, I think, Hulu. And
it's Hulu. It's Hulu. It's on Hulu.
Yep. And I was just like, oh yeah, Weird Science. And we're on this whole, like, especially Frank, what is it? I think we've been stuck in the 80s, strictly 80s retro counsel.
Strictly 80s retro counsel, sir.
But Weird Science, if you haven't seen it, these two high school kids, they're the geeks, the nerds of the high school, right? They get picked on, bullied, they don't have girlfriends, and they're just trying to kind of find their way, find themselves. And so the one friend, his parents go away, and they're doing kind of a sleepover, for like the weekend or week, however long the time frame is, I forget. But they come up with this idea to create an artificial intelligence woman, like a girlfriend that they could learn from and teach them things about women. And
high school boys, yeah, what you're getting into,
right? And it ends up coming to life.
They're successful.
This real life woman instead of this computer based woman. They have a real life woman who really helps them find themselves, helps them mature. They get, able to stand up for themselves, able to talk to women, right? And really, like, mature in a lot of ways. She kind of helps them through that, and that's really, watching this again. It wasn't just about the fun moments for me, but it was also kind of realizing just like their kind of journey that this kind of event took them through.
Yeah, this is one that I remember back in the day being on like USA or TBS, and my dad's like, "Oh, Weird Science, you'll like this," and you're right, I loved it. I probably haven't seen it since I was a middle schooler, so getting to revisit it, it was like, "Oh yeah, this happens," and my wife had also seen it very young too. She watched it with me, excuse me, and she was like, we were both like, "I think the villains from Mad Max show up here in the next scene or something like that. It gets really crazy. And the scene where because there comes a point where the bullies, one of them played by Robert Downey Jr. in like one of his first roles, which always great to see Robert Downey Jr. in any role, even if it's Doctor Doom, whatever. They bully the two main characters, so they're like, well, they find out that they've made the woman, so they want a woman too, so they redo the experiment during like a massive house party. And one of my favorite parts of rewatching and rediscovering this movie was I forgot about all the crazy stuff that starts happening as they're doing this second experiment, and the people that are at the party, like, they're impacted by it. I just thought I was laughing my butt off. And the whole time, but that scene probably was my favorite. But I just forgot how funny it was. And I'll mention, I know, Matt, it's on your mind too, but the theme song is sung by Oingo Boingo, which is this absurd 80s band. And, you know, they sing the Weird Science, and it just fits so perfectly with this movie. And it just, you can't help but laugh a little bit when you hear it, because it's like the song's a little over the top too. So it just goes really well with the movie.
Yeah, Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman.
You know, but like, yeah, I think that's one of the better parts for me too. Like, but you know, I always like hearing that song because it also reminds me of Back to School. You know, because he hires Oingo Boingo to come to the party and play, and they do the Dead Man's Party.
Coming to a retro council soon, we are going to be doing Back to School, which is one of the most underrated 80s comedies of all time, but that's for another retro council. But Weird Science, like, and just to see, Anthony Michael Hall is the guy, right? The blonde main character. And this is pre-Breakfast Club and pre-Brat Pack. So to see him like in one of his first roles and just be like, you know, awesome in that. The other guy, I don't think he went on to do much more other than this movie, but he's funny too. But I think who really steals the show is Bill Paxton as the jerk older brother. Chet. Freeze buttwad, or whatever he says.
Yeah, that is funny. So he's like the military older brother, and he comes home and he kind of, you know, bullies his younger brother too, and that's kind of like the growth for him as well, as he stands up to his older brother. And what happens is the girlfriend they created turns him into like this like turd monster. Like, there's not a better way to describe it,
right? And and speaking of that, the girl that they create, they never really explain how or why. It's just, you know, hey, it's Weird Science, man. She has like these powers that she can just kind of like meddle with our reality.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. She turns the older brother into a turd monster. And like, one of the funniest scenes is he's like begging her at the end of the movie, like trying to negotiate with her, like, you got to change me back. Like, I can't go through my life like this. And she's just like, I don't know. You're kind of mean to your younger brother.
One of the best scenes for me, you know, in like the powers thing, you're right. Like, they never really explain that part, but
right. That's Weird Science.
That's weird. Is one of the first scenes after they create her, like, she wants to go out and they have on these ridiculous like suits. Like, it looked like they're going to like a yacht club or something, right? And they walk out of the room and all of a sudden, like, their hair and their clothes change to these really like slick, cool, like, you know, suits that they're wearing to go to like a blues club, you know, and they're like 15, 16 years old, right? And they're at this bar drinking, and, you know, Anthony Michael Hall's character, he gets this bottle slammed in front of him. He goes, "What's that?" And they say, "Drink it." Like,
yeah. I love the whole sequence when they leave the club or on their car ride home, and Anthony Michael Hall's in the back, and he is just like, he is drunk and just saying just saying some wacky stuff, you know, like things only a high schooler would probably say, but it's just so funny. You know?
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, I would check it out. I have actually watched it a couple of times since I found out it was on Hulu. I mean, it's an enjoyable film for me.
I've watched it twice because I enjoyed it so much the first time. I was like, you know what? I think I'll go and do that again.
Yeah, kind of like Deadpool and Wolverine, except for that one fan that didn't agree.
I have a funny story about Deadpool and Wolverine. I was able to see it again myself. So, yet again, Frank's at the movies. My sister-in-law and nephew were in town, and the girls wanted to spend some time together, catch up and everything. So I was like, all right, well, I'll take my nephew to a movie. And my sister-in-law was very clear on what movie I wasn't supposed to take him to, and that was Deadpool and Wolverine. And I saw this as an opportunity to be the cool uncle, so we went to see it. And I got to bond with my son with Despicable Me 4, see his first movie. I'm now the cool uncle with my nephew because I took him to see the movie mom said no to, and I enjoyed it even better the second time. So our one fan, I guess maybe we have him on or something. He can tell us his points, or maybe just here's an idea. Just share this episode, tell your friends, and that'll be good for us. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, drop it in the comments, right? I'm always down for feedback, right?
Yeah.
You're entitled to your opinion, man.
Yeah, it's like your opinion, man.
But hey, anyways, that's going to do it for us here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show as always. Frank and I, we try our best to kind of bring you, these things and our opinions on them, and hey, show us some love. But hey, catch us same streaming time, same streaming network. Later.